What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Oscar Health. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down what's moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Oscar is down 15.9%, 1484 the low, 1621 the high, and just shy of around 21 million shares being traded. So a lot of volume is getting in. There's quite a few things that did come out over the weekend that is really kind of hyping up the broader market. One is this right here. So potentially a 2,000 per person stimulus. And so this isn't going to be including high income people, but nonetheless, this is good. I feel like there's going to be a lot of possible updates needed for this in order for the market to fully take this seriously. But one thing that did come out that's really pushing the market higher is this. So a lot of good progress in regards to the shutdown. So it looks like there was more of a good breakthrough. So I think generally we could be getting that fully all said and done later today. So that's going to be a big thing for the broader market. I think right now is already pricing that in and starting to move higher. But in regards to Oscar, they are getting hit quite hard, and that is because of this. So this did come out on November the 8th at 4:35. So Trump vows to cut hundreds of billions from insurance companies, redirect funds to citizens. This is one of many things that Trump just randomly says. And the market doesn't really know how to fully interpret that. So this is very vague, and so it doesn't really talk on the parameters. How is he going to direct it to the people? How is that going to kind of work out per person? There's also a lot of Congress hurdles. There's just a lot of issues in regards to this, but nonetheless, the market is taking this as a big red flag and causing Oscar and many others to go down because of that. At the same time, this is pretty much following Oscar's most recent earnings, which they did, looks like they came in line with or beat on the earnings per share, and then they missed by 96.2 million on their revenue. So not necessarily the best. Analysts have always really hated Oscar for whatever reason. So you do have some that recently came out, a $12 sell, $13 sell. You had a new hold rating that was done by Goldman, initiated coverage 1929. That is very, very specific, but that was done prior to the earnings on a side note. But still, as a consensus, 1426 is that price target, representing a 5% downside. So given the fact that clearly analysts hate Oscar, I think this is a pretty good price target all in all, so 1426. But still, nonetheless, though, today's push lower, in my opinion, is largely unjustified. And a couple of weeks from now, when looking back at it, this will be a optimum time to buy. So you guys do whatever floats your boat. But aside from that, though, Oscar did put out news early this morning, and that is this. So I think they put this out just to hopefully, in their mind, combat against Trump's comments, but Oscar launches new affordable health coverage choices for Southern Florida individuals, families, and businesses. So that's their kind of attempt at doing that. I don't really see this being crazy news that you need to stop what you're doing and buy Oscar, but at least the company is more self-aware of macro concerns and what is really affecting the business. Shorts. So 157,000 shares are being increased today. 11.36% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 23.5 million shares overall are being shorted. DTC sitting at 1.38 days, so that does signal that shorts are fairly overextended. DTC does factor in the average volume for Oscar in comparison to number of shares being shorted. And overall, you can see that shorts have really returned a lot. So back in July, short interest was 37%. So they returned a ton. And so I don't know if maybe this is a sign, given all the macro fear and now Trump as well, whether that's more of a green light for shorts to start to double down and increase, but we'll just have to wait and see and how that does all play out. Looking at the options, 9.7 million in calls, 5.9 in puts, and then 37% of all the options being done are bearish in nature. From a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around $18. So that's good. At least optimism is still on the table. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub, looks like 14 to 14.50. So more downside is anticipated based on that. These are some of the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So this is why I always like to go over where volume does come from, because even though we're getting a lot of volume, you're not really seeing that much in institutional transactions. So ultimately, the biggest thing that's moving Oscar is algorithmic trading. So AI is piggybacking and realizing that this is very bad news for Oscar, and thus it's kind of bringing it down. You do see 4 transactions that are sells, so 405, 290, 157,000 and 138, 2 buys, and both were done pretty much close to the market open. These are all the transactions occurring on the dark pool, so given how much shorts are doing right now, it is fair to assume that most of this is linked to them. Right now, with it at 1486, it is trading between this S2 and this S3. So Oscar, regrettably, on a technical standpoint, is really breaking down. 1561 is going to be that next strong target / resistance. 1439 is going to be that next strong support. So at the end of the day, maybe if we get 1 or 2 new ratings that come in that are bullish, that might really help, at least in the short term, push Oscar higher. But it's just a lot of grayness, which is unfortunate. On a side note, if you do want all of this information for free, take a look at 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧, link in the description below and also the comments. And I'm always a very big advocate of trading during the overnight trading, and so I think every investor should actually have access to one broker that does that. 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧, in my opinion, is top notch, so definitely take a look at that. Link in the description below and also the comments. So it's free for all this information and a lot of other good stuff as well behind the scenes. But aside from that, from a technical standpoint, it is really breaking. So today it is below that 200-day moving average, so not really the best. In fact, it is below all of the key moving averages that generally I like to look at. So the 50, 100, 10, and as well the 200. So today, kind of crazy stuff, but because of the recent price action, it bouncing off of that 2380 recent high, it has considered, or stochastic RSI is very oversold. So a good piece of news, you could see a very nice recovery as a kind of byproduct of that, but still looking at the market position, you don't really see that much willing buyers. So things could get very real very fast. So just keep that in mind, refer back to the fib levels, the support and resistance points, if that's your thing, if you're wanting a deal. But I think Oscar has been hit very, very hard recently and somewhat unjustified. Again, that's my viewpoint, of course. So let me know your thoughts on Oscar Health. Are you buying more? Are you selling? Like, what's your general thoughts on Oscar? And what do you think would really prompt analysts to turn bullish on Oscar? Do you think it'd be more of a value play or not? Because as I've mentioned, even the analysts, which largely hate Oscar, like the consensus, we're pretty much at the consensus right now. So I don't know. I personally am buying Oscar. I like it. I'm also selling puts. So any stock that you do like, consider selling puts. I always kind of advocate that because, yeah, you get a good value, get a nice little premium coming in, and you can buy it at the price that you ideally want. So let me know your thoughts on Oscar. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One final thing. Pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.